The Pentagon says an attack by Iran on Israel is certainly possible this week. We need to take it seriously. So, of course, they have said 24 to 48 hours pretty much every day. Since day one, I said that when these events happen, just like the Russian warning that they actually gave American travelers, they said in the next 72 hours, be careful and don't go to any concert venues. It was not within 72 hours. So whenever they get the supposed intelligence of these things happening, it's usually off. But in this case, it was a retaliation. They raised the revenge flag. They said that they were going to attack back. And they even said pretty specifically that this isn't going to be like last time. This is going to be way worse. So what are they actually going to do? Now, a Pentagon spokesperson told reporters on Tuesday that an attack on by Iran on Israel is certainly possible this week, adding that the threat needs to be taken seriously, so more resources are being maneuvered to the region. Now, check that out. Because of even the potential for this attack, they are now moving troops, they're moving resources, they're moving, of course, Navy ships there, and this is all for the potential. But I do believe in my heart of hearts that this is going to happen. And I sure hope that some of these folks out there, experts even, saying that this is actually going to be something that's coordinated with other countries that are our adversaries. So say China takes Taiwan, Iran takes, attacks Israel. You've got Russia does a massive, massive event on Ukraine. You have, of course, Venezuela take Guyana. All of this happens down at the same time, at the same moment that, we end up losing our power grid or there's some sort of cyber attack in most of the Western nations. That is what some folks are actually stating, that is what Iran is actually waiting for, that they all hate our guts and they want to take us down a notch. But again, we'll see what ends up happening. The Pentagon Press Secretary Major General Pat Ryder spoke with reporters and was asked about simmering tensions in the Middle East. He was asked about the Iranian threat against Israel. The White House has said an attack by Iran could come this week. Quote, is an attack possible this week? That's certainly possible, Ryder said. The bottom line is I'm not going to speculate, of course, or guess when they might attack, other than to say that we need to take it seriously, and we are doing that. So any time that this has been talked about, since probably the second day when the attack didn't happen, when people thought it was going to happen, and with Tisha B'Av, people said, hey, this is all Ganda. They're just trying to scare us. But honestly, I think right before our Pick Our Prez Day, I think something massive is going to happen. Honestly, there's a lot going on today, so we're going to cover all of that, including a global emergency declared on the Mpox. So we'll talk about that as well as many other things. So stick around. You don't want to miss today's show. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, guys, grab your popcorn. Of course, out of nowhere, there are so many different events hanging around right now. We're going to talk about all of it right now. So welcome to Marfoogle TV. And remember, you can always find a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document over on the website, marfooglenews.com. Now, when you go over there, you'll actually see that it's very easy to navigate. Just look for today's thumbnail. The show is about to start. With Yahoo, they're eating some popcorn, basically getting ready for the show. Now, again, this has a full bibliography, every single article, tweet, video, picture, document there at your fingertips. So utilize it. Again, remember that. All right, let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
Now, let's go over the internal strife. Iran's delayed retaliation to Israel sparks rift within terror proxies.
Well, so there's two sides to this. This is inside information, apparently, coming out of a meeting that happened in Iran with the heads of the groups and other head leaders. And specifically, there was the source that came out of that meeting said that it ended kind of in a bad way, in the sense that a lot of people weren't happy with the direction. And the direction was that the IRG was asking, hey, you guys need to hold off just a little longer. They wanted to wait until this Thursday, which is coming up in the next 24 hours, depending on where you are, probably already there now as we're speaking, because there was a deadline for the negotiations for the people being held against their will in the Strip. And they wanted to see what would happen with that. And if that ended, then they would, that maybe that would change things, or if it went through, that could change things. So some of the T groups, like from Lebanon, were really upset, and they're, pushing to say, no, we should be going now. We don't need to be waiting any longer. The time is now. The time is now. So that's what they're at least reporting. We don't know if any of this is true, because it's just coming from, it's sort of like getting an inside source out of the White House, right? So it's an inside source from inside this, secret meeting over in Tehran that went down, that's sort of bringing about this. Now, of course, the West would like to paint a picture of that they're a mess and not working in concert, and they're not capable of moving forward, and that's the kind of narrative you could see right here with this. But at the same time, it very well could be true. They may actually be waiting. That's why we have this long stall that everybody's just sort of sitting on and wondering. So I don't know. What do you think, Adam?
As far as the stall, I think now there are no big dates that people are all speculating of when it's going to happen. Everybody thought, oh, no, it's not going to happen in 24, 33 days, 6 days. It's going to be happening on the holiday, or the remembrance of the destruction of the first and second temple. Now that it hasn't happened, now there's nothing in front of us that really says what day. Now it's going to be a surprise. I don't think that they're going to tell them when they're going to do it, and I think that that's part of the plan. Now, the picture that they added in here, a picture's worth 1,000 words. This is a crazy country. I mean, it really is insane. I just saw a Twitter post essentially showing a gentleman in the 1980s. Like right after I saw a post about how it was like 1971 or whenever it switched over back to the way Iran is run now. You saw a woman in a dress, uncovered, walking down the street, and it looked like a typical, 70s woman. And she's like walking down the streets of Iran. And then the next very post was in 1980, a gentleman that was strapped to a cannon, an actual cannon with two big wheels, like something you would see out of a civil conflict movie, right? The original one. And his back was strapped to it, and that was how they took him out. That's how they, that was their capital punishment. And you think about the kind of place this is. Look at this freaking ad. So if you don't know, that's Soleimani in the front, and Soleimani was taken out by a former president, which triggered them to threaten the former president. And this was way before the attempt on his life and all this. They actually put out videos on the Ayatollah's actual Twitter showing a 3D animation of them rolling a laser drone, rolling drone into Mar-a-Lago, basically tagging him and then having a sky drone take him out. So they've put this out there. They're like, you took out a war hero. And look at how they treat him. I mean, this is like, Steven Seagal in the newest movie, but it's Soleimani, and then, of course, the negotiator and the president, or the former president. I'm sorry, the next president, right? So one of them was taken out, of course, they said with an explosion that was there for months and all this weird. And then the former president, the one that he was replacing, he mysteriously went down in a helicopter crash. So do you think that they're not going to retaliate? I think they are. But again, what's your opinion? Let me know in the comments down below. But look at their posters. Like, this is all over their cities, all over their walls. If you ever see the side of a huge kind of brick, older skyscraper, all of those are painted with these pictures of Soleimani or the Ayatollah. I mean, just what an insane place to live. If you've ever seen The Man in the High Castle, just imagine what life would be if, Germany won and Japan. I mean, like, the life that they live there is absolutely nuts. It's just wild that these kind of posters are everywhere. So I think that they're preparing their people for a massive war. And then the Army stands up Arctic Aviation Command. Before we get over to this, let's go over to the chat real quick. Let's do a quick roll call. We haven't done a roll call in about a week. Let's say hi to all of the awesome Foogle fam. We've got a lot of great people. I already saw Anfo Mofo, Brian Knight, Rob Mills says, well, hello again. It's weird because Iran is a younger country. Jasper Silver, Daniel Woodard. We have Revolutionary Bliss, Big Chase, retired police officer, Hodad 3000, Mark Schaefer, Backwoods Law. Hey, nice to see you. Thanks for stopping in. Been a while now. The end is near. What is going on? We have Deb Ryan, Resistance Homesteading, 420 all day. Brendan Curtis and Scott D. Hey, guys. And Joe Tyner, Alan, lots of new names. Thank you guys for making it. Thank you for subscribing if you haven't already. Again, I believe most of the people that watch, even in chat, they don't subscribe. So if you can, it helps us a lot. It helps us get bigger guests and things like that. It doesn't matter in the big picture of things, but it will help us in the future. So, all right. And then, of course, the Army stands up Arctic Aviation Command. So, Dex, do you actually want to cover what the Army's activation of a new aviation command and what this means?
Yeah, the Army's activation of a new aviation command in Alaska marks the return of the local air control over 2 battalions in the Arctic region after a 5-year hiatus. So think about what that really means is we're now making a bigger investment. We've already had a huge investment in Alaska, but now we're making a bigger investment there, bringing in this new air command or bringing back an aviation command. So there has been a battle, so to speak, for claiming the Arctic and claiming superiority in the Arctic. So we've seen China making moves there. Mostly we've seen Russia making massive moves there. And of course, the U.S. has been working, obviously, with our foot with Alaska, but even with some of our other partners, Canada and Greenland, to get access further into the Arctic. It's very critical when you think about the importance of it reaching, making sort of the shortest distance, especially between Russia and, say, the U.S. And also it's critical on Russia's side as far as potentially opening up channels of shipments across the northern part of their continent when the ice recedes in that area.
And I'm not, there's plenty of channels that cover all of the Arctic events that have gone on and all of the crazy Google Earth things that people have found. And of course, a lot of the leaks and different speculation about what truly is going on in all of these Arctic regions and what has been going on for, decades. But as far as the military bases, I mean, like, what they've talked about and only the stuff that has come out and some of the white papers and some of the quiet executive orders they've talked about moving stuff, some of the budget things that have come out as far as, they direct money up towards all of this stuff. It seems to me like the Arctic region will definitely play a giant role in the future. Otherwise, all of these countries would not be fighting over it. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. And thank your mods by going over to marfooglenews.com/friends. You have all sorts of great people over there, and you have all of our wonderful channels that we've worked with or we believe are really, really great people on and off camera. So make sure to go check that out. That's over at marfooglenews.com/friends. Also, check out marfooglenews.com/EMP. If you don't have protection against EMP or a Carrington level event from the sun, well, it's pretty easy to do so. You can put an EMP shield in your car in less than 10 minutes, and that will be the difference between your car not starting after an EMP strike or a Carrington level event from the sun and it actually getting home and getting home to your family. If you work far from home, very, very good thing to have. And again, it's something that will ground the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it's able to fry your car, truck, motorcycle, boat. They have them for generators. They even have them for the Energy Flex Tactical. So again, they have them for pretty much anything, including your home. So go over to marfooglenews.com/EMP. This is the same company that's helping agencies like DHS, DOD, and of course now on the DEMSO team working with the Texas grid. So use the code MARF. Not only you get $50 off per device, but you're also helping our independent channel. You guys all know that if you are legacy media, you're going to be put on the top 50 pages. If you are independent media, well, you're basically at the bottom of the barrel. So it's actually, we're really proud of the Foogle family and how you guys have got us out there. You are the reason we are here at all. It is mostly from referral and you guys bringing in people. So I can't say thank you enough. Again, from myself, from of course everybody that helps us, and of course my family. So thank you guys for telling somebody about us. It really does help. It is one of the main pushers for how we are growing. So thank you guys. We appreciate it. Now, Chinese scientists say that they found a way to make hypersonic missiles skip in the sky. But of course, U.S. experts are not exactly convinced it will be efficient. Dex, do you want to tell us, what do they mean by skip? What do they mean that it's going to skip in the sky, right?
Yeah, so basically what they're talking, if you think about how we've heard in the past with space travel and particularly re-entry into space, you've heard of this notion of skipping off of the atmosphere because you missed the trajectory. I think we heard a lot about it with one of the Apollo missions that was coming back, and they've talked about it, I think, even in the movies and stuff. When you re-enter in, if your trajectory is not correct and you don't hit it right, you run the risk of literally bouncing off and then you're, headed back out, so to speak. Well, what they're talking about doing is taking a hypersonic, which goes up into the upper atmosphere above there, and it's moving very fast, and then it has the ability to come back in at a high rate of speed but be maneuverable. That's one of the advantages of a hypersonic missile. But they're saying that they can only go so far based on the fuel it carries, but if they can get it up into the upper atmosphere and then bounce it off of the atmosphere, they can get another distance out of it, and they can go, they call it skip gliding, where it basically flies on the edge of space, bouncing off the dense upper layers of the Earth's atmosphere. Think of it much like, skipping a stone on water. That's the tech that they say they can do now. And we'll probably be hearing about it in their next version of their hypersonic glide vehicle. Obviously, they're way ahead of us, at least publicly. No telling what we're doing privately, but they put out that hypersonic vehicle that not only went hypersonic, it glided back in, it maneuvered, hit its target where it's supposed to, but also launched another vehicle off of itself during that glide. Which was something that was sort of unheard of and puzzled a lot of people at the time. So they are making a lot of advances in this. So this notion of skipping across the atmosphere may be real, even though the U.S. is skeptical.
And scientists didn't know how they did that first thing, what Dex was mentioning, where a hypersonic vehicle, or I don't know what they said, a vehicle, essentially something that was hypersonic speeds, ended up launching a second item that took off from the first item, and then that item ended up going hypersonic. They said that it was against physics. Like, some said, how is this even possible? So with that is not something that China's bragging about in the People's Daily or the South Morning Post or the South China Morning Post. That is something that is coming from our Pentagon. So the Pentagon is admitting that China has this technology, and they admitted that they didn't know about it until after it hit its target. That means it went around the world and then hit its target and extremely close to its target. I want to say it was within 20 miles, but if you're thinking about going around the entire planet and then hitting, that's pretty scary. And especially if you think about if that carried a giant nuclear warhead, then 20 miles hit or miss, you might hit a city of your target. So yeah, they're also saying that this could increase its range and make all sorts of different missiles. They could then apply this to other missiles and other technology. Now, a lot of people do not want to admit that China and Russia are scary at all. Everybody says, if it's made in China, then it's going to fall apart before it gets here and all of this. The stuff that we consume, and it's so messed up because all of this crap that we're buying from China, they're building it haphazardly because that's what our companies wanted. It's our companies and our corporations that are ended up, trying to cut corners and make the cheapest possible stuff and basically get everything for as cheap as you can do it. If you have, you got a back massager for $80 in America. Well, China can do it for $4 or $3 or $1, right? Well, that's what they wanted. They wanted to make the most money. They wanted to manufacture it for as little money as possible, get the same functionality or the basic functionality. Don't care about IP stuff and any kind of intellectual property. They didn't care about all that. They care about money. At the same time, all of these places, of course, these corporations sent high-tech stuff for China to make. They have the ability to make high-tech, high-quality stuff, and people are still in this mind frame that China doesn't know how to make stuff. You have met Chinese people, and I guarantee you went to school with them in their culture, and if there's anybody that has emigrated from China, including Chinese Americans, people that have been there their whole life, I know some really, really, really smart friends of mine. Their parents and their family, education was first. It's in the stats even, as far as China and India and other cultures that actually take school more seriously than anything else. If you don't get an A in your grades, you're basically not going out until a year later when you're not going to see the sun until you get that back up to an A. So think about that, and then think about our culture. Think about our current culture. You have 5-year-old Chinese kids essentially building construction jobs in kindergarten, building outside brick barbecues with cement and actually mixing cement and doing all these kinds of projects, and then learning how to cook on top of it when they're 5. And not allowed to play video games. They do a lot of things that are really messed up if you think about it. But really compare that to our TikTok generation, our kids that can't go 5 feet away from a plug-in with fear of, I think they call it nomophobia, basically being without your phone. So think about our generation, this new generation, and of course the generation that's coming out of a very, very hardcore China right now. I'm not going to say that these places are you cannot underestimate your enemies. Dex, let's go over the
Hey, Adam.
Go ahead.
I wanted to comment, and I'm changing the subject on you. I wanted to comment on what you talked about earlier this morning, and I forgot to bring this up, but do you have a second? Let's talk about that hack.
Oh, yeah.
When we think about the Social Security hack, there was a comment I wanted to add to what you were talking about on that, and that is specifically this. If that was done by design, not necessarily by a hacker, they just put it out there that a hacker did it. Here's what could happen with all of our Social Security numbers now becoming public and being put out there. When I say all, that hack was allegedly all of the data of everyone in the U.S., potentially other countries as well. But what it means to us here in America is all of your Social Security numbers potentially out there in the public, or at least in the owners of these databases that are trading them on the black market now. If that is true and it happens, they could take that and start stealing identities. Now, we see that happen all the time because social security numbers get leaked and identities get stolen. But what would happen if it happened to everyone? Well, the notion of your social security number would be useless. It would no longer be valuable as a solution for banks and everyone else and financial institutions to identify you. So what would that need? What would that need? We just created a problem that needs a solution, and that solution is a new identity, a new digital identity,
digital ID
that we know they want to bring about. So here's the way to do it. Roll out a leak of all of the social security numbers of everybody in America, and now you've just opened the problem and enter the solution, which is here is the new identity. So get ready, folks.
And you know that this is on the agenda. What was the female candidate, and I don't know if she's still in the race even, who was the candidate that suggested that everyone should have an internet ID to be held accountable for what they say? She sounds a whole lot like UK government right now. Who was that? I can't remember.
Wasn't that Haley?
That was Nikki Haley.
I don't remember. Was it Nikki Haley?
It was Nikki Haley. And I'll say this. This isn't a political thing. I have nothing against Nikki Haley. In fact, I know that there are some folks that really love Nikki Haley. But once it came out that she was funded by a huge chunk of the money, it's public who gets funding and for what. There was a certain rock that's painted black that all of a sudden, overnight, she was like, "Oh yeah, I think we should all have an ID that IDs everybody on the internet. Every person on the internet should have an ID connected to their real life." Now, some people would look at that and go, "Oh, yeah, well, that's a good thing. Then I won't be, trolled by this person. They'll know who that is, and they'll be able to go after them." But there's whistleblower protections. There's all sorts of reasons why this is not a good thing. Also, if we do have true tyranny, which many people can debate about what is going on right now, if you have a government like 1940s Germany, right? And if you truly believe that your government is doing something horribly wrong, well, you should be able to speak up against that. But also, if information can't get out and things like this, if it was attached, you're not going to be able to talk about it. Otherwise, you'll be immediately punished and taken out of the equation. So, with that, I mean, that if Nikki Haley wasn't on my radar for somebody for 2024, because I didn't really know her. She popped up when, all of this, all of the candidates popped up. I didn't really know much about her before that. But when she said that, I was done. I mean, I was like, yeah, well, she's definitely not my candidate, because I know where that is going. The Banking for All Act, that is another one. They say that like 25% of the world has a bank account, or at least this was years ago. They want to bring that up to 100%, and they even asked the smartest brains in the world how to think. How can we get it to 100%, period? That sounds like a forced bank account. That sounds like something that you have to make people make it mandatory. So yeah, lots of crazy stuff. And then the Canadian government warns a country to prepare for a new thing that's worse than what we went through in 2019. So the Canadian government has now issued advice warning citizens to prepare for a hypothetical new strain, we'll call it, that could lead to food and fuel disruptions. If you weren't waking up before, wake up now. The snooze button needs to be turned off at this point. The Center for Occupational Health and Safety rolled out a second edition of their FL&U and Infectious Disease Outbreaks Business Continuity Plan Handbook. The guide provides information for employers on what to prepare for in the face of another event like what we had in 2019. It says in the new edition, released in June, they focus on a hypothetical thing or strain that they warn could trigger further disruption that would be worse than the 19 event. Again, it states that based on trends from past, of course, demics, there may be a higher average of illness and deaths in age groups different than what we typically see during annual seasons of the cough, the regular cough that everybody gets every year and gets a on the side for and used to before all of this happened. It says the guide also warns employers must be ready for a scenario like a outbreak or endemic that forces people to stay home. Now, just yesterday, or Dex, was that today that they declared a big thing about what was it yesterday or today?
It's today. That 3-letter acronym agency declared an outbreaks in Africa for the M and the POX.
Yeah, and by the way, they declare a global thing, and they've declared the global thing for smaller things too, right? Isn't that a way that they fast track and go over certain laws and restrictions? They can clamp down on it, right? Or that's what their excuse is, right?
Typically, yes, I would think.
Yeah. So the timing of that, which I actually posted over on my Twitter. If you guys haven't followed me over on Twitter, make sure to go do so. Again, let's see here. So if you go over to my Twitter, you can see there is actually an update right here. And this is actually the video of Tedros declaring that event. So if you want to go over there, I only said one word, which is timing, right? The timing of this, everybody said, "Oh, this is crazy." But we've had several events in the recent past, which everybody was like, "Oh, the timing of this," and we look at all these things where during a week where something comes out and the whole community goes, "Oh, well, that's really weird that this is coming out now," and people really do get worried that this is going to be the big thing. They've had several of those smaller things happen. And they ended up being nothing, or the H this and that strain of this. But honestly, I almost think it might not be something that it might not be something we catch. It might be something our computers catch. That is also what the W and the E and the F talked about 2 years ago with Mr. Schwab. So yeah. And then again, with what Tedros just declared, a lot of people are concerned. I hope that this ends up being nothing, but be prepared. Any one of these events could turn into the next. With CV, that one, I knew something was off right away. And the way they talked about it, the way they said that somebody was traveling and then this person, and the way they covered that, I knew right when it happened. Obviously, I was warning about that months and months before because of the different graphs, the different warnings. And that's why I really want you guys to pay attention, because this is the Canadian government basically putting this out and even going along the same handbook, the same idea, the same scenario that was actually in the tabletop exercise that was done almost exactly 4 years later to what happened in 2019. In 2019, months before it happened, they had this exercise that specifically looked exactly like what really happened. Well, this new one is a scenario where it would actually affect young people instead of older. So keep that in mind. And now look at the timing and when that happened in, what was that? November is when I started hearing about it and started talking about it, the official ones. I remember in that same week that it came out, I talked about some weird stuff like they found a huge freezer truck filled with people that were no longer around, if you know what I mean. And it was like a freezer truck filled with, people. And they said it was people traveling across borders or something. I forget what they ended up saying, so don't quote me on that. But I remember thinking, like, this is super weird. And then all of a sudden we had all of this stuff go down. Dex, as far as this hypothetical thing, it sounds so much like the tabletop that just happened right before the beginning of this year, I believe. I think it was 2023, and it was before January. Yeah.
It certainly does. And when you see this stuff, you sort of have to take warning and wonder what else may be coming. Look, speaking of the other topic, though, going back to the monkey business, so to speak, Handy in chat said that they work in the medical area, and they said that patient triage standard operating procedure manuals have just appeared in the large ERs in my town in Atlanta, as it relates to that new declaration that came out. So that's how fast they're moving on this, putting out SOP manuals in the major ERs in the big cities.
See, that right there is something that you need to pay attention to. The other thing, though, is when stuff like this happens, we don't want to, go overboard and freak out about something, because people have. With the last 3 or 4, I just for some reason didn't think that they were anything like what happened with CV, because we've covered all of them. We've covered all of the bird, that. The deer, the possibility of this going from farm animal to human, all of these kinds of events. None of them had this thing around them. And usually that thing that is around them is how the media talks about it. So this is pretty quiet now. We'll see what happens. And if you want an update on it, then make sure to subscribe and hit the all notifications button. By the way, thank you guys. Thank you, Carol White. The early this morning at 2 a.m. when I got back from all of my filming. Carol White was one who did a super on my other show. Thank you. And David Wad and Heath Spear. I think, David, I missed you. So thank you so much. So stay on top of your game. Thank you for your work. Thank you, Kathy Paina. I don't know if you're here tonight. Thank you, FBA Raw, for support the other night. And this week, Amy and Todd's, Kat, Old Combat Vet, Carlton Sutton, Shelly Babes, Stephen McMahon, Kent Reeder, and of course this month, Carpenter One, Gillian Mason, Thomas C. Bryan, Sweatin'em Ministries. I hope you're doing well. Tuck Pup, again, Tuck Pup, I hope you are doing well. I know that you've been super busy. And then Paul Chidium, of course, Laura Gittins, Bodhisattva, Lola Cafe. Every time I see your name, I, of course, have positive memories. Hope to see you soon here. Andrea O'Neill, and then, of course, Genius by Birth. I hope you are doing super, super awesome. Now, Russia ready to execute nuclear attacks on NATO targets, according to leaked documents. Now, this is out of Zero Hedge. They say that Western sources have reportedly leaked Russian plans drawn up between 2008 and 2014 for a, quote, series of overwhelming strikes across Western Europe. Now, Dex, we didn't get too much of your opinion on this on the other video. So one thing I want to point out is, don't you think it's a little odd that this was leaked out? It's Western sources, so it's somebody in our allies that ended up leaking out this plan that was from 2008 to 2014. We have no idea what they're planning now, but why would this leak now? And what does this have to do with what's going on? Is this just to scare people, or what else could this be?
Well, I think it certainly could be to scare people. It certainly could. I think really the thing you have to pay attention to is this was the plan put in place should they get invaded. Technically, they just got invaded. They weren't invaded by NATO. They were invaded by Ukraine, who is a, potential to be a part of NATO. Not even a potential. I think they have all said it. As soon as the conflict is over, you're guaranteed in. And so I guess we have to sort of at least understand that there would be a consequence if the motherland, so to speak, if Russia was like invaded or attacked. What would that consequence be? What would that response be? And this is the plan. So they're letting people know this is the plan. I think that the change, or not necessarily change, but the other thing that they added, or they were talking about here, is the specific use of tacticals. And we've heard them talk about the tacticals, not just talk, but we've seen them deploy them to the lines numerous times in testing facility or in a testing fashion, where they'll roll it out, get it set up, make sure it's ready to roll, and then bring it back down. Or maybe even leave it there so that it's already ready in position, and it gives them the opportunity to move equipment. But the fact that they've done so much of that with tacticals instead of strategics is now letting people think, okay, well, we've maybe moved from this whole notion of let's eliminate the entire world with, these strategic weapons that'll just not be practical to, okay, well, if we look back at these plans that they have and what are the targets they're going after, if they went after those targets with tacticals, would that give them an advantage? Would that give them success that they're looking for? And a lot of people believe, a lot of people that study Russia and how their arms work and how they think about the military, think that that is how they would differentiate or how they would be successful, is by using tacticals in Europe and doing it quickly.
One of the quotes, it says they see tactical nuclear warheads as a potentially war-winning weapons, says Jeffrey Lewis, a professor at the Middlebury Institute of International Studies in Monterey and an arms control expert. It says they're going to want to use them, and they're going to want to use them pretty quick. Now, as far as tacticals, they're much smaller, and they're not going to take out a whole state. They're not going to take out multiple states like the Satan II or the Sarmat, but they could take out very specific targets. Have we crossed the line with Russia? And does Russia have some pretty powerful friends right now? Are they teaming up with pretty much every other adversary that is getting in a massive war? And do we think, as Americans and in any other country that is our allies, do we really think that we are untouchable right now? Because it certainly seems like that is what the case is. Because if you look at right now, the U.S. has played a giant part in Ukraine doing everything. I mean, Ukraine would have been defeated by now if it was not for NATO. If it was not for NATO and specifically from the U.S., a huge, giant amount of money from the U.S. and, of course, money and equipment, jets, tanks, everything else from other countries. So are all of these targets as well. Now they are actually going into Russia. We've heard about the plan, like the Noah's Ark plan. We've heard about all that kind of stuff. But now they are actually into small towns. They have crossed another red line. And if you actually look at the doctrine that Russia made to essentially state this is what they would have to do for us to legally use our tactical nuclear weapons. We already surpassed that before this invasion, or whatever you want to call it, or dual invasion thing here. But before that, they destroyed early warning systems that are Russia's early warnings for nuclear weapons. They destroyed multiple large Navy ships. They said that if they destroyed, in their actual list, they say, like, for example, if they destroy more than 3 large naval ships, this would be a reason why we would legally, as far as what we're declaring, be able to use tactical nuclear weapons. They said if they destroy certain runways or airports or military bases, this kind of thing, then we could use tactical nuclear weapons. Now, I can't remember what it said about actual kind of invasion or taking over towns or something like that, but I'm assuming that all of those previous ones that have already been crossed, I guess now America thinks, we'll just never see the response from this. We're hoping that especially our current admin and possibly our next, if it goes like last time, and really they're showing us these filled up stadiums full of our current VP, basically having 50,000 people like a Super Bowl coming to their things. Whether you believe that or not, it certainly looks like they're going to do everything possible to show one person and then not show the other. I mean, heck, look at the interview with Elon and, of course, our former prez. DDoS attacked a day after they essentially said in a White House press conference, well, we're doing things, but we can't really talk about what we're doing to stop it. I mean, all of this is just absolutely, it's kind of like that comment by JB before the pipeline. Like, well, that pipeline, well, somehow, somewhere, can't talk about it, but we'll take care of it. All of these things are super out in the open, out in the faces of everyone, but people are just like, okay, cool, but we support it because we're on that side. I don't get it. But right now, we've crossed every red line there can be. And I think that people have the attitude that we're never going to see a response. I think there's a reason why all of our adversaries are getting incredibly tight. They're literally signing treaties to back each other up in war. And they're doing this for what reason? Just to back us off? Because nobody's backing off right now. In fact, It's quite the opposite. Everybody is the military industrial complex and the very few people at the top that are making money hand over fist, so much money that, they're going to be powerful and their families are going to be powerful. Their children, their great-grandchildren, their great-great-great-great-grandchildren are going to still be powerful in this country because of the money that these places are making. We're not talking rich. We're talking about world-running rich. That is how much money is being made right now, and we're not even in a massive war. So I would say please try to buckle up and get ready for the unexpected. All right, and then let's see here. Oh, and by the way, thank you, James. Thank you, everybody over on X. I appreciate that. Thank you, Stephen. I appreciate that. Sarah, thank you for subscribing. Thank you for joining. New members, thank you guys. Thank you, Galen Monroe, Matthew Shaw, Mistwood, Rochelle Cooley, Christina, Andrew McWilliams, and Prep Mom 5 from PA. Thank you guys, along with Los Lobo. Dex, again, just all this craziness going on. Do you think Do you think we should underestimate Russia?
Well, no, of course not. We know they're holding back. They've been for a long time to prepare themselves and protect themselves, really, for something with NATO. They couldn't have used all of their equipment and all of their troops and all their might just in UKR. That would be foolish on their part.
Now, I do want to point out there's obviously some folks that are over in Europe right now. I also wanted to call out to you guys, if you are specifically watching from the UK, let us know what is really going on. You can also send us videos at marfooglenews.com/playmyvideo. It's very easy to submit. All you have to do, if you're in the comments right now, if you're watching on YouTube, then you already have a channel. You can upload whatever video you have. You can upload it unlisted. And then, of course, you can go over and go to our website, and it will already be linkable. You can put it right there, and then boom, we can put it on the show. So if you have something wild that you want out on the show and you've got an exclusive video, send it to us. That would be much appreciated at marfooglenews.com/playmyvideo. And then again, if you haven't already, make sure to go check out Energy. If you want a solar generator, I think there's only one option that you should go for, and that is the Flex Tactical. This thing is tough as nails. It is literally built in the kind of standards for the military. This just won the STTR Phase 2 contract for the U.S. Army. So this is going to be shipping out with the U.S. Army. It is a very tough generator. Steel reinforced frame. It's got 1,500-pound latch system. So if it does fall off of something like the tail bed that it's showing, this thing is going to stand up to the battering. As far as the build, it is one of the highest quality, sturdiest, just solid build you've ever seen. And then on top of that, it is incredibly easy. Each one of those buttons, essentially the top two on the main one, just turn the power on. One turns on that strip. So if you want the power cords, if you want those on, you just turn it on. And then all of the rest are the batteries. As far as you can actually press that button, see all of the information on the battery. You can store, of course, power from a solar panel, or you can store power from your wall. So again, very, very amazing unit. You can add up to 96 batteries. So if you're talking about, you could build a wall out of batteries with this thing. And then, of course, you can click them together, take them portable. You can take it where you don't have an extension cord when you need it. You can always have them charged. And when your power goes off, you can even get a UPS unit that is also a double kind of whammy. It can also supercharge it from the wall. So the UPS unit is actually a rapid charger from the wall that can charge a battery in as little as 40 minutes. So again, compare that to, say, the battery can charge, I think it's a little under 4 hours with the solar panels. You can charge it in 40, I believe, with that rapid charger. And when the power goes out, it will immediately go through the generator and, of course, switch over to it. So go check it out. They've got tons of mods and other things that will probably be coming out as well. It's set up for the future. So if they add features, all you have to do is get the brick like a Lego, put it in there, and boom, you're done. Go to marfooglenews.com/energy, INERGY, and make sure to use the code Marfoogle. It helps myself, it helps Dex, it helps our families, and it, of course, helps independent media. So thank you guys. We are not part of a network. We're not part of a multi-channel network. So we much appreciate it. We've stayed on our own for 5-6 years now. So thank you guys for doing so. We do appreciate it. But we also think that it will end up saving lives. All right. And then thank you, Galen. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you, everybody that made it to tonight's show. All right. And somebody said Temu is good. Let's see here. Temu, I will say this. One of my oldest started playing Temu like it was a game. That's how they made it. They literally made it like it's a game. Like if you get this, this, and this, you'll get free this and this and this. I think it's to almost make it like gambling. But that's just my opinion. Again, craziness. Leslie M84, 13 hours ago, said, appreciate you endlessly, Marf and Dex. Thank you. And Leslie M84, I appreciate you as well. Cassie Marie, 7520, thank you, and thank you. And then I missed you. Kenny Crowder, one of my oldest subscribers, I think number 8 out of however many, 205,000 that we have now. Thank you, Kenny Crowder. I appreciate you. Neil Nelson, thank you, and thank you. And everybody else that has made it tonight, I appreciate you. Dex, thank you so much for everything you do.
Absolutely. Much love. Great job, brother.
And you guys, if you want to join us for the shoutro, just stay in the chat. And of course, if you want to watch the short video that we did over on Marfoogle News, our sister channel, make sure to subscribe. Hit the all button, of course, for notifications. And if you want to watch that video, all you have to do if you're watching the replay is click right here. I'll be in my normal studio in a very short time period here. So in a couple days, we'll be back to normal shows. We're all, of course, putting some stuff together, and I'm doing projects. So thank you guys for your patience on the wonky schedule. Love you. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out.